What is the history of banking? Banking has been around since the first currency were minted, perhaps even before that. In some form or another, currency, in particular coins, grew out of taxation as empires expanded. Functional systems were needed to collect tax and distribute wealth. Understanding banking history. The history of banking began when empires needed a way to pay for foreign goods and services, with something that could be exchanged easily. Coins of varying size and metal eventually replaced fragile impermanent paper bills. Coins, however, needed to be kept in a safe place, and ancient homes did not have steel safes. According to World History Encyclopedia, wealthy people in ancient Rome kept their coins and jewels in the basement of temples. The presence of priests or temple workers, who were assumed devout and honest, and armed guards added a sense of security. Historical records from Greece, Rome, Egypt, and ancient Babylon have suggested that temples loaned money out in addition to keeping it safe. The fact that most temples also functioned as the financial centers of their cities is a major reason why they were ransacked during wars. Coins sold be hoarded more easily than other commodities, such 300-pound pigs, for example. So a class of wealthy merchants took to lending coins with interest to people in need. Temples typically handle large loans and loans to various sovereign and wealthy merchant money lenders handle the rest. The first bank, the Romans, who were expert builders and administrators, extricated banking from the temples and formalized it within distinct buildings. During this time, moneylenders still profit as loans do today, but most legitimate commerce and almost all government spending involved the use of an institutional bank. According to World History Encyclopedia, Julius Caesar, in one of the edicts, changed Roman law after his takeover, give us the first example of allowing bankers to confiscate land in lieu of loan payments. This was a monumental shift of power in the relationship of creditor and debtor. Has landed noblemen were untouchable throughout most of history, paying debts off to descendants until either the creditor of debtors' line died out. The Roman Empire eventually crumbled, but some of its banking institutions lived on in the form of the papal bankers that emerged in the Holy Roman Empire and the Knights Templar during the Crusades. Small-time moneylenders that competed with the courts were often denounced for usury. Viceroyal. Eventually, the various monarchs that reigned over Europe noted the strength of banking institutions, as banks existed by the grace and occasionally exploited charters and contracts of the ruling sovereignty. The royal power began to take loans to make up for hard times at the royal treasury, often on the king's terms. This easy financing led kings into unnecessary extravagance, costly wars, and arms race with neighboring kingdoms that would often lead to crushing debt. In 1557, Philip II of Spain managed to burden his kingdom with so much debt as the result of several pointless wars, that he caused the world's first national bankruptcy as well as the world's second, third, and fourth in rapid succession. This occurred because 40% of the country's gross national product was going toward servicing the debt. 5. The trend of turning a blind eye to the creditworthiness of big customers continues to haunt banks today. Adam Smith and modern banking. Banking was already well established in the British Empire when Adam Smith introduced the invisible hand theory in 1776. Empowered by his view of a self-regulated economy, moneylenders and bankers managed to limit the state's involvement in the banking sector and the economy as a whole. This free market capitalist and competitive banking found fertile ground in the New World, where the United States of America was about to emerge. Initially, Smith's idea did not benefit the American banking industry. The average life for an American bank was 5 years, after which most banknotes from the default banks become worthless. The state's chartered banks could, after all, only issue banknotes against the gold and silver coins they had in reserve. A bank robbery meant a lot more than it does now in the act of deposit insurance and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Compounding these risks was the cyclical cash crunch in America. Alexander Hamilton, a former Secretary of the Treasury, established a national bank that would accept member banknotes at par, thus floating banks through difficult times. After a few stops, start, cancellation, and restoration, this national bank created a uniform national currency and set up a system by which national banks banked their notes by purchasing treasury securities, thus creating a liquid market. The national bank pushed out the competition through the imposition of taxes on the relative low state banks. The damage had been done already, however, as average Americans had already grown to distrust banks and bankers in general. This failing would lead Texas state to outlaw corporate banks, a law that stood until 1904. Thank you.